Well, I'll just swing straight to the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Police and Parliament. This week, we saw the parliamentary process kick in. National Assembly Speaker Togo Didiza instructing about 3 committees to probe the allegations by General Mkhwanazi. I think what many want to know is the terms of reference and when do these committees actually start getting into probing these allegations?
Sure. So on this coming Wednesday, there's a joint sitting between the Justice Committee as well as the Police Portfolio Committee, from where we will then discuss all the different remedies to our disposal. One of them obviously being some form of a joint parliamentary inquiry. We also obviously need to consider the different remedies as proposed by legal services from Parliament itself. I think the positive part of some kind of a parliamentary inquiry is that it's something that can happen a lot quicker than many of the other remedies. It's something that's transparent. It's something that the public can, let's call it, be part of. And I think what's important about this, especially after all the commissions and things we've seen over years, is many people feel hopeless by that. And we actually have an opportunity here to restore some of that trust.
How will that trust, rather accountability, look like? And with the probe itself, will it be solely focused on the allegations? How wide is the scope of the probe?
So we'll discuss that as committees. The committees need to come together and determine what those terms of reference are. Obviously, a big part that would need to be considered, firstly, is all the departments that are involved. Use an example, the Independent Policing Investigative Directorate, IPID. It's very important to understand where could IPID possibly have stepped in on this? Shouldn't they have done so before? Why is it only being reported now? Let's talk about the independence of IPID, for example. Wouldn't they have been the ideal body to step in right now? But they can't because they report to the same minister as the South African Police Service. And that's just one of many examples. Those are typically the things that committees would discuss. Also, it's important that we then go and determine how far back many of the allegations date, because obviously you're going to open a can of worms with each, because each one has its own shelf life. It might reach into other different types of incidents. Needless to say, once we're done with that, we can combine all of that, and regardless of the remedies that Parliament follows, we would then be able to make certain recommendations to the executive and obviously hold them to account on those.
On collaborating with justice, we know the nature and the sensitivity of information that joint committee deals with, and they usually sit behind closed doors or in camera. How will the police committee navigate around that, ensuring also the public having access to the probe itself?
Well, I think it's a very important part of Parliament's mandate, and it's a constitutional principle for the public to be able to have access to Parliament. So that's the first part. Obviously, from our side, we'd want to make it as public as we possibly can. I think it's critical that obviously you're gonna consider each part individually, right? So we need to look at it that way. So if there is something that's of critical importance that can't immediately be public, then one needs to consider that and discuss it. I think the important part is, if that happens, the public still needs to be kept in the loop about why that is happening. I think for too long, many times the public feel as though they aren't being taken into confidence with anything. Obviously, we don't want to mess up any kind of an investigation. This could end up in court later on, etc., and we need to consider that. But I think as far as it possibly can, it's important to take the public into confidence and make it a public, transparent process.
On that note, we'll have to leave it there. The chairperson of the Police Portfolio Committee in Parliament, as we know, this week, following those allegations, both the parliamentary leg underway, including the various criminal charges that have been opened by 2 political parties, the Umkhonto weSizwe, including the Democratic Alliance. And in less than an hour, the nation will be watching the president's response to the bombshell allegations by KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner General Mkhwanazi on links and alleged links between organized crime syndicates, pointing a finger at the police minister, deputy national commissioner and others.